I'm going to show you a way that you can make really incredible music almost every single time using MIDI. The thing is that there are thousands and thousands of MIDI out there. And if you're somebody who's not like super in love with writing original chords and stuff all the time, or let's say you're a producer sometimes getting stuck with beat block or something like that, you want to find new sources, MIDI can be a great way to start really interesting tracks. And one of the best parts is that when you're using MIDI, it's like collaborating with another producer or another keyboard player or something like that. And it pushes you to make creative stuff that you wouldn't have normally done before. So today I'm going to show you how I use MIDI to start tracks. Okay, so one thing that I really like to do that I think is kind of slept on, I'm not saying you have to do it this way, but is actually just to start with a raw ass piano. And the reason I like to do that is because I want to see if the melody alone can stand up. So I'm going to go through some of our MIDI packs here, and I'm actually just going to click through and try to find something that I really love. For this, don't be afraid to click a lot. What you're looking for is actually not like a specific thing you're listening for per se, but you're actually trying to pay attention to your internal feelings you have about it, right? Because at the end of the day, this is going to be like the main melodic somebody hears when they listen to your song. So within the first few seconds, I want to be captivated by what I'm hearing just from the piano notes perspective, right? Like if you take a hit song, okay, maybe like a Justin Bieber song or something, and you were to play it on a piano, it's still catchy, right? So that's why I like to start with piano just to test out MIDI. See, right there, this one, for some reason, it's kind of speaking to me. I can see this being like a really cool beat. One thing to note is that in FL, the MIDI information doesn't transfer over. So I'm not that good at music theory. So later when I'm matching up samples and shit, what I like to do is I like to just write the key that the sample is labeled at. So this is a D sharp minor. I'll just rename like the piano thing to D sharp minor, just so I remember for later. So one of the cool parts is we already have one layer, like this piano layer, like low key. If I just like put it in here, I could put like one plugin on this like memory. I probably don't even have to touch it. Already, that has a lot of life and character to it. But one thing that I'm going to do is that I'm actually going to bring in melodic one-shots. You guys know I love these. These are essentially like VSTs and giant sound libraries and synthesizers and stuff inside of your DAW, okay? And it's really easy to use. They're all in sample form. So I'm going to go through and click some of these one-shots. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start trying these out, and I'm going to find maybe something like this. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take that piano layer and I'm going to paste it here. And I'm going to try different octaves. So I'm actually going to bring it down an octave. And then I'm going to try different ones. If you click the middle mouse button on your mouse, or you can just like drag one over, you can actually try like this and just drag it right on top. You can keep trying different sounds. So now that we found something that's melodically catchy, we want to use this little trick to find something that's really cool from a sound design perspective. So now that I've started it with the MIDI, let me go ahead in here and try out some different sounds and find one that sounds good. Okay, right there, as you can see, all the bass notes are kind of colliding. One thing you can do is bring it up an octave. And it's still dragging a little bit, so make sure you go to the ADSR settings. And what I like to do is I like to bring this attack to 0. I like to move the sustain, the decay, and the release up a bit. So now, when the note is released, the sample stops playing, when before it would play out all together and it gets that crazy muddy sound. So if you're having that issue, just go in here, mess with the ADSR settings, and that'll fix it up. Very cool. I'll keep playing with more. Ooh, it's like a different sounding piano. I like that a lot. I'm actually going to keep it. I'm going to clone it so I can keep adding, I want to add different sounds on top of that. Ooh. You can also try different octaves on every layer. Another quick way to try different octaves, by the way, you can actually move the whole piano, you can move that whole MIDI down like I'm doing. Depending on what kind of stretch mode you have, what can happen is that those high notes that are playing, like let's say this one right here, if I were to go to the MIDI, if I were to play a high note, it's gonna be tiny, right? Or like beep. But if I go super low, it'll be big and long. Watch. Right? It really changes because the higher up the keyboard you go, the shorter the sample is. One, you can either change the sampling mode right here. Like if I change this to stretch, it'll essentially not do that anymore. That'll all be perfect size. I like to keep resample on because I like when I randomly hit a high note, it's a little bit different in length. It creates like a lot of variety in your melodies. But what I was going to say is another way to change, if you want to keep those weird lengths and stuff, instead of moving the whole set of MIDI down an octave or something, you can actually just move the pitch up an octave right here. See? I already like where this is going. I'm going to add a few different things that are real easy to do. Okay, so when you're using MIDI, another thing that I find very useful is that when you have the ghost notes set up, you can actually see the notes. If you're somebody like me who's not that very good at music theory, what you can do is I'll just randomly fucking see the notes that are already in there because I know they're in key, and I'll kind of just play them. And sometimes, I'm not going to lie, sometimes, often they're good. Yeah, already I'm like, oh, okay. Right there, bang. As you can see, I made a little extra counter melody. And it was not planned by any means. What I was doing is I was just following the ghost notes right here, and you can create a bunch of melodies like that out of the original MIDI. I'll show you guys one more trick you can do. So I'm gonna take the piano layer actually. And instead of doing it like this, what you can do is you can actually select them all, and you can hit the ARP tool, which is Option A on Mac. I think it's like Alt A or something like that on Windows. But as you can see here, it turns all the notes actually into random arpeggiated notes. You can change like how they appear, how they're alternating. You can flip them around. You can do all kinds of cool stuff. The range, right? If you want it to be low, you can do it that way. If I want it to be high. So what I like to do is I like to do stuff like that. Watch, I'm gonna add some delay. And sometimes you can create just some crazy sounding like background melodies and stuff. And almost every DAW, by the way, even if you're not using FL Studio, has one of these arpeggiator tools. I know Ableton has a really great one. So you can kind of like take those same chords that you originally started with, because keep in mind, all I've done is I found a main set of chords. I have found a one shot to replace it with, right? And add some cool layers just from those same set of chords. I have randomly clicked in notes I saw were in the same scale because I had the ghost notes on, right? Create an extra counter melody. Now I've arpeggiated a piano. Right? Like if I wanted to, let's say I already wanted to create this into like a full beat real quick. Now let's get a bass going. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to follow essentially the bottom note here. Once again, it's all provided because the MIDI. Ooh, I clicked that on accident, but I'm going to save it because it's kind of fire. Sometimes I like to clone my snare for the off snare, because the other one I'll actually turn down, and then I'll also pitch it a little bit. I might grab like, I'll just add some quick stuff right here. I might add a hi-hat loop. Sounds good enough. Maybe something like this. I'm just testing out stuff, guys. Add a kick. I personally love to use kick stems. For that off hat, I had that main sound, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw in maybe a rim shot. See, now that we already got something started, I remember it was in D sharp minor, so what I can do as well is I can probably go in and grab some like vocal loops, something like this. Just throw it straight on top. Try to find something that matches. All right, we'll try something like this. They don't all match right off the rip, but we'll just try. Ooh, I like that a lot. So you cut the lows a little bit. As you can see right there, I just started with a simple MIDI. And the thing that I think is important to note here is that I took most of my time on this. I was just sifting through different MIDIs because what I wanted is I wanted something that melodically felt right from the very beginning, before the sound design, before all the drums came in, before the different layers, right? And I think too many producers just kind of get some random idea that they get started and they end up working with that when reality is maybe the songwriting wasn't actually strong enough, right? And if you use MIDI, one thing I would recommend is that there's so much out there that you can afford to be picky. Like, what does it cost you as a producer to take an extra 5 minutes to try out 40 different MIDI? Like, so for example, for me to take, you know, one of these sounds, like let's say this one, and I were to go to a MIDI pack, because this is really important. And if I were to go to some MIDI, let's see how long it takes me to test out new ideas. 1, 2, 3. I just tested 4 ideas and I found one I like. Fucking beautiful. So I can even take this same one right here and I'm gonna paste it around. Like, listen to this. It's probably better than the last one. And all I did was I already had all the sound selection because of the last thing I started. And essentially now, grab all the drums real quick. What was my original point before I accidentally made another fire track that might have been better than the first? Take a little bit more time to just click through the MIDIs. I tested 6 song ideas in literally about 10 seconds because all I did was dragging in new MIDI. The top producers in the game right now, they don't bump into writer's block because they have so many methods just like this, and there's a lot of other stuff you can do with samples, you can do original stuff on a keyboard. We have so many different modalities to start a song when you've been doing this for a while that a lot of times that writer's block doesn't come by. So if you know a lot of these little tricks, like this stuff with MIDI, you can take more time in the early stage to search for the right idea. Because if you start with the wrong idea, you end up spending all this time on sound design, mixing, drums, effects, when your original fucking melody sucked, right? And you're polishing the damn turd. And what that means is that it doesn't mean, like, even me running Cymatics, doesn't mean every MIDI I click on and every combination of ideas is great because I started Cymatics and these are all Cymatics samples. No, you still have to find what is meaningful to you as a producer. And that's why taking extra time, find that MIDI. You could even start with, just like I said, just the piano. Find the stuff that is speaking to you as a producer. Once that hits, and the songwriting is good, then start dragging in the one shots, then doing all this. And if you guys are doing the stuff I'm talking about in these videos, you will be able to try 30, 40 ideas in the same time that a normal producer who's doing it the fucking slow way would take 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I swear, I see people produce sometimes and they're just so inefficient with their time that they're not able to get out enough ideas to even be picky. They're doing this one idea and they're so sacred to this one idea they're working on for the month. Meanwhile, I can do 30 different ideas in about a couple minutes, you know, just by clicking through the different MIDI, or just even over the course of a couple weeks, I have so many different song ideas. So then that way, it's not that you don't spend a lot of time on music, it's that you make sure you're spending all your time on the best ones. Like if you were to go on a date, and let's say you just broke up, you're going on a date. Would you rather like go on one date and you're like, this date's kind of okay, and then like, you know, maybe I can make this person work? Or would you rather just get 1,000 dates knocked out real quick, pick the best one and build a relationship with that person, right? I kind of look at sound design like that. That might be like crazy analogy, but you know, it's kind of like that. Just go on 1,000 dates. Try out 1,000 different sounds. Find the one that is vibing with you. That'll help define your unique sound. When you pick better ideas to start with because you have better methods for being creative, what's going to happen is that the music you decide to put more time into is going to be a lot better just because you picked better ideas to start with. Anyways, this is how I use MIDI. I hope you found this video useful, and yeah, more videos to come. And by the way, in the description or below this video, there's going to be a link to a free MIDI pack. Feel free to go download that and try it out yourself. We also have free one-shots that'll be linked down below. So if you want to do the combo just like I did, those resources will be available to you. And if you want to take it up to the next level, our premium MIDI from some of our big production suites and stuff can really provide a lot of resources. If you want to dial in on this stuff and have an insane sample library, check those out as well. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Peace out.